My name is Adam Lehman. I am privileged to serve as the president and CEO of Hill International, which for tonight's purposes means I get to introduce an awesome featured guest, an awesome program. We are joined tonight by Marcella Kampfer-Rolnick, and I'll share more about Marcella, but we're really pleased to be able to host a conversation with Marcella as a business leader, as a philanthropist, as a woman who has really demonstrated just so much admirable in both of those domains, from which I think we can all learn. And I'm going to turn it over to Celia and Eli to carry forward from here. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Eli, and thanks, Adam and Celia and the whole team behind this program. It is so fun to be with you all tonight. I'm having flashbacks, seeing some of the names of people that I actually went to college with who have joined us. So it's nice to see some alums joining us as well, and just to feel so supported by my college community and my native Ohio community. So thanks for having me, and I really look forward to the conversation tonight.
So I know that your business life and mission are balanced by a strong commitment to tzedakah and tikkun olam. How have your Jewish values informed how you approach business and philanthropy? And can you also speak a bit to the Lippman Kanfer Foundation for Living Torah? What does Living Torah mean for you and the foundation?
Those are great questions. I love all these questions you guys are asking me. So first, I would say I'm going to go a little bit more specific on these values. So of course, tzedakah, tikkun olam, those are nice big umbrella values. But what you'll see is even in the values I talked about earlier that we published for our company, which are secular values and work for every employee regardless of their faith background, I would say there's probably a lot of commonalities between those and some core concepts or core values that our foundation possesses that really is a reflection of my values and my family's values. And we spent a lot of wonderful time as a family coming up with them. And if anyone wants to go look at them, I'm not going to give you, the entire rundown, but if you want to go to Lippman, Lippman, Kanfer, Kanfer.org, we have our two foundations listed there, and you can click into either one at some later time and look for the About Us where our values are listed. But you'll see a certain sort of digging into our traditions and our texts and saying, what is the wisdom there that is going to guide us in our actions across all the sectors of our life, right? I like to think of this as the values that I parent with, the values that I do business with, the values that I join organizations and volunteer with or support financially. So for the first one is just the sort of essential dignity of humans. And that sort of animates our commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion efforts that are both at our foundation and at our company, and just fundamentally informs the cultures that we aspire to create. I'm not saying we're perfect. We are always on a journey of self-improvement, but I would say we really strive to make sure that every single person that we interact with feels seen, heard, given opportunity. So that's an example. And another one, which I really like, sort of comes from this sort of Elu ve'elu, this sort of idea that there can be multiple words of God and multiple truths. But of course, sometimes you have to pick one way, like Hillel's versus Shammai's, just to kind of move forward, right? You can't get stuck in the no, you're right kind of moment. So I would say in our business, we are very dialogic. We are very much leave your epaulets at the door. Everyone come on in. Let's be really clear on what we're talking about and what the sort of challenges at hand. And whoever has insight, whether it's because you're on the floor and you're the factory floor or the field with the customer and you have that kind of insight, or you're someone who's a big boundary spanning strategic thinker and you're pulling dots in from other industries and that's where you have insight. But we all sort of come together, and then we don't have to be right? It's better to get to a good answer than to win the fight or win the argument. So I would say this idea of sort of really seeing each other as partners and getting to the best answer is sort of informing how we work together. And then I would say just this notion, we call it, like in the foundation side, we call it like nachshon, right? the character in Midrash of the first Israelite who went into the water before that started to part when the Israelites were escaping Mitzrayim, escaping Egypt. That Nachshon, the one who had to have enough confidence in this audacious vision to sort of take a chance. And, at our company, we talk about bold leadership. I mean, to invest 10 years worth of CapEx in the middle of a pandemic, which wasn't going to come online in time, most likely to meet the demand that we were not meeting. I mean, that takes some audacity. That takes a lot of, bold leadership. So I would say, so we bring our whole selves and the way that we think, to everything that we do. And I mean, I could, sort of, go on about these values, which are so dear to me. The last things I'll just say is, we really try to be first anchored I talk about being purpose driven as a company at the very top of things. What are we trying to accomplish? What are our values and how we do it? And what's our vision of the world out there? And that gives us alignment. When we're clear on that, lots of different ways to sort of experiment to get there. And we're very experimental, both in business and in our foundation. And we're really anchored on the long haul. As a family enterprise, I don't think about, of course I think about next quarter's earnings, but I really think about 5 years from now, 10 years from now, where's this enterprise going? So I would just say that's how my Judaism certainly impacts my philanthropy and my business, every single day. I think you're asking about Living Torah, which is part of our One Foundation's name. So Lippman Canfor Foundation for Living Torah. So it's actually a double entendre. The first meaning for Living Torah is sort of more obvious. It's sort of live Torah, right? So there's a social scientific concept that for change to happen, you have to be working at 3 levels: the affective, the cognitive, and the behavioral. So affective is feeling, how we feel, our attitudes and feelings. Cognitive is how we think. And then behavioral is, of course, how we act. And we are very focused on the act of being Jewish, that it's sort of doing Jewish. And I don't mean just going out and doing activities, but sort of internalizing these Jewish values, these Jewish concepts, and then saying, how do I then go behave in the world that would be different if I didn't have them? So how do I go out and apply the Jewish wisdom that is my tradition? So that's the first meaning of living Torah. And then the second one is really about Torah as an adaptive system, as sort of a accumulated and accumulating wellspring of wisdom. So from our traditional sources, right, the Mishnah, the Talmud, etc., as well as the sort of ever accumulating sources, right? So Yehuda Amichai, his poetry, and perhaps, some art installation that, is happening somewhere in Midtown Manhattan or maybe South Manhattan. And now you could get into all kinds of debates, which I'm happy to have, sort of offline. We do it all the time in our foundation, which is like, where do you draw the line? But I think there's sort of, Rabbi Abraham Isaac Cook said that it's like this tension of renewing the old and sanctifying the new. It's sort of like we want to bring in new wisdom traditions, but we want them to be sanctified. And there's, I'm not saying that our foundation is at all the arbiter of what should be sanctified and what isn't. I think it's sort of this process that we are all going through together, those of us who say we want to engage in Jewish wisdom. So what our foundation is really trying to do is make being Jewish not sort of a continuity exercise or anything other than saying the Jewish wisdom tradition should be a source of living a better life and living a more meaningful life, and then making the world better. So this is not just for Jews, right? This is about the human dignity seeking that I was talking about earlier, and going out and pursuing a more perfect world, which is really sort of my definition of Moshiach.